All right. Okay. I'm Moshe coming to you from Israel and the Galilee. And today is the 28th of May. It's a Wednesday. It's, what is it, about 9 in the, can't tell on this. It's about 9 in the morning. Our weather is 81 high, 65 low. Tomorrow and the day after pretty close. And then Saturday, 94. Then back to 85, 82, and it's just unusual weather. The 94 or whatever it was may not happen. I don't know. It may be, I have a feeling it'll probably be a little less than that, but you never know. It's still a few days out. So today, what we're going to do, we're really just, I'm just preaching to the people that, been following us and know the Bible, what we're going to talk about is some of the next events coming, the big biblical events, and we'll try to see if we can sequence them and order them as much as we're able to, because it's not going to be, sequencing is something you can do, but the timing is going to be very, very precarious, it's going to be very hard. So that's what we're going to do. In terms of world events, we'll cover some. It's not that interesting, really. There's nothing. Trump's still playing his game. He's going to negotiate with Iran. More cargo planes came into Diego Garcia, American, and KC-135s, maybe, I think. The Houthis are still trying to launch missiles at Israel. There were 2 takedowns yesterday. The Gaza situation, now they're saying that Israel controls about 40% of Gaza only. So after over a year and a half, that's how far Netanyahu got. If he's not dragging it out, I don't know what is. Okay? And what else is there cooking up here? Trump's mad at Putin. More sanctions coming on Putin. Whoopie-doo. This is the president of sanctions, How much good does it really ever do? A large amount of Russian, they have discrete ships that, like they're Russian, but they're civilian, and he tries to hide it. And, they're sending oil to China, and China's keeping the Russian economy going right now. So I think Trump's going to try to end that and try to bring Putin to his knees. And one country, or more than one, lifted the range restrictions on the weapons that Ukraine can use against Russia, and it's expected America will or already did. And unless Trump gives them more stuff or they actually get the Taurus missiles, they're pretty much stuck at about maximum 300 miles, which is enough to cause even more damage to Moscow and things like that. Now, if they could get to 500 miles, then they could hit several other cities in Russia and stuff like that. So Putin is basically not extremely interested in having a Ukraine peace deal as per Trump. He's not responding to that. He's not. So what does that mean? It means they're going to keep fighting. That's what it means, Trump is telling Canada, if you want the Golden Dome, you're going to have to cough up $61 billion. But if you join the United States as as the 51st state, you won't have to pay for it. So, is that going to work? I seriously doubt it, you know. I'm not really aware of any other really major significant things. There's been no official, subsidies going to people through Social Security. Nothing has come about. There were so many headlines and talks with Musk and everything, and they haven't done a thing, you know. Trump's not that concerned about the poor people, you know. He says he is, but, you know. He's more interested in Musk and his other friends picking up another $500 or $600 million this year than he is the regular people getting another $2,000 or $3,000. You know, he doesn't care about that. All right, let me go into the live stream and make sure we got a live stream, and we'll proceed from there. So we're not going to do current events other than what I already talked about. I'm waiting to see what the voice sounds like, and come on, voice, come out. I'm waiting to see what the voice sounds like. Yeah, there's a delay. Okay, it's good. I'm going to put a post up in the chat. Okay, that was the post. So, being a Bible believing site, I'm going to do some praise. There is no God like Jehovah. 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 There is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 Okay, we got a prayer request from PC, Papa Charlie PC. Papa Charlie prayer request for healing and pain reduction. For PC, Papa Charlie, prayer request for healing and pain reduction. I would like you to pray for me. I'm getting a lot of mucus, sputum, and I'm not computing as to why I'm getting this. I don't feel sick. And I pray you would pray that this stops and it goes away. Pray for healing for me and that it goes away. Okay. There's something the Lord showed me yesterday I want to pass on to you guys. You know, there's darkness and there's light. Okay? You could look at it as good and evil too, you know. And the whole world lies in wickedness now. Okay? And in that wickedness is many things. Okay? The people are operating in darkness as a way of life because that's the only thing they know. Even though they might be believers and they might be unchurched believers, a lot of them are still in darkness because, let me explain. Not that they're going out and taking drugs and murdering and adultery. No, no, no. They're not doing that. But let's talk about, going to places like amusement parks with demonic themes, which they all have. That's darkness. What about watching the television? Well, if you're watching the news, it's kind of hard to call that darkness. If you're watching shows reporting reality, is that really darkness? I don't think so. Because we're supposed to watch, okay? Now, what about going to a baseball or a football game? Is that darkness? I don't think it's kind of waste of time more than anything, you know. It would tend to not be light because you don't get any light from it. So if it's not light, it's darkness, right? But it's certainly not as dark as a lot of other things are, okay? Why is it dark? Because it's a stupid thing and it gets the people involved in wasting their time in their life. So it's definitely darkness, but it's not as bad as going to Disney or going and watching the latest Tom Cruise movie or something like that. That stuff is real dark, okay? Now, the television and the movies and the Netflix and the Amazon, what do they call it, Prime and all that, that stuff is overwhelmingly darkness, okay? You know, people think, oh, you watch a cop show, you know, and the cops are righteous, and all the police departments are run by Satan bots, all the law enforcement, they're all controlled and run by Satan bots, and they're darkness. They're trying to keep the evil, wicked government in position. It's darkness, darkness. So when you watch this stuff, if you do, you're delving into darkness. All the TV, all the movies, you know. What if you go back to the 1930s even, right? Or let's say the old John Wayne or, you know, the Westerns, maybe they were 1938 or 9 or something like that. Or Johnny Weissmuller, Tarzan. It's darkness. They're not telling you the truth. They're not glorifying God. They're not. It's an untrue depiction of life and the world. It's not untrue. It's true. It's a depiction of people living in darkness, walking in the darkness, enjoying the darkness, operating as if there's no other option other than the darkness. Okay. What if you watched a cooking show? Is that darkness? You know, again, it's not glorifying God. It's not enlightening, so it's kind of darkness, but it's way less dark than some of the other stuff, okay? You understand? So when you watch these, you know, movies and shows on your computer or telephone or your television, whatever. You're getting dosed with darkness. Why? The themes of all these things are evil. The old shows, the westerns even. What is it? Murder, killing, robbing, extortion, lying, adultery. It's all it is. They're playing to you all the darkness in the world and hope it rubs off on you as a way of life. Why do it? The evil music. Now, I don't believe there's any, good, I think if it's out there, it's so minimal, good, real biblical music, because they play it. And there was some fellow that came to me and made some songs, and I posted them, and they were biblically themed, and I don't believe that guy is, running around trying to be evil or anything like that, not at all. But most of you are going to, if you're listening to music, you're listening to music from groups, maybe Messianic, that they go to the churches and the congregations. Guys, those songs are all no good, or they wouldn't be in the congregations or the churches. You have to understand that, okay? If you don't understand that, you got to, okay? Satan doesn't have real praise music to Jehovah and Yeshua in his churches. This doesn't go on, okay? It's the phony stuff. Who are they praising, They use names, that are vague. God. Well, to them, Satan's God, and you got to not listen to that stuff. And the church music, some of it is, it sounds nice and all that, but they're praising the enemy. Why do you want to listen to that? You really believe Satan's going to have people come in his churches and sing praise to Jehovah and Yeshua the Messiah? Do you really believe that? How could you believe that? So, as what I guess we might say, we're in the final stretch here, and it's been a real tedious ride, hasn't it? For all of us, we've had a rough road. I know that. We've all had it rough. I don't think there's a single one of us that hasn't had it rough. And now we're there. Now, there's people that just anesthetize themselves from end times, and that's not correct either, because we're supposed to watch. So you're not supposed to just run around and say, I'm going to follow the Lord and do the best I can do, and I'm not going to hide my lamp under the bed, and I'm going to shine my light, and I'm going to keep myself oblivious to the wars and what's going on in the world. Well, that's not it. We're never told to do that. Yeshua said he didn't come to bring peace, but to bring a sword. And they want to make believe that's not the case, right? Because they're not watching. So that's not great, okay? Doesn't mean they're going to get condemned to the lake of fire. No. It just means they don't have a good teacher, and they don't understand it, and that's what they're doing. Does it mean they're an unbeliever? No, I don't think it necessarily means that at all. They're just not with it. They, and then you get into people that occasionally go to the churches or the Messianic congregations, and a lot of times in Israel they'll go because some singer or musician from the Messianic congregations or the church world is going to appear there, and then they go. Well, these are people that lack discernment. they don't know what's going on. They don't understand this. And they would frequently not go to the congregations very much or at all. But when there's something that interests them, they go. And this is bad error. Bad error. Okay? Does it mean that they're doomed? Well, I can't judge them. I don't think it necessarily does, because they're not normally in the church or in the congregation, but they don't have the discernment to understand that they're getting the wool pulled over their eyes. Ultimately, they got to make a decision. But, you know, I'm saying these are people that might show up to a Messianic congregation, you know, 3 or 4 times a year, because there's a speaker or something there that they buy into. Now, the people that are fanatically obsessed with listening to the church preachers and stuff, that's a very, very bad thing, because they're steeped in it, okay? They're not occasionally going. They're a whole hog into the other gospel, the other Jesus, you know, all the sick stuff, you know, changing the Sabbath and the divisions, and, you know, that's a very bad thing. They're probably not the elect. I'm not going to judge everyone, you know, I can't do that, but they're probably not the elect. And they're probably never going to be the elect, because they love that. Now, what is that? That is darkness. The churchianity, the other gospel, the other Jesus, that's darkness, and they like the darkness. It's darkness because it's untrue, it's lies. That's darkness. Lies is darkness. And they like the darkness. They don't like the light. So these are just, you know, many are called, but few are chosen. Those are the ones that are called but not chosen. So what happens to them? Broad and wide is the road to destruction, and many find it. So they find themselves, you know, hooked up with the church preachers and churchianity, doctrines, and all that, and they follow it, and they study it, which is like pretty ridiculous, but they study it. And they run around chasing these different churchianity lying prophets and lying teachers and stuff like that. And there's masses of amounts of them. And, you know, I look at their channels, you know, they'll have a live stream and, you know, 2,000 people come in. They'll get 100, 200,000 views for a video and stuff like that, you know. And why is that happening? Because straight and narrow is the correct path, and few be that find it. So there's not a lot of people out there that are going to listen to me. Okay? Remember, darkness doesn't like the light. Okay? Go in your bedroom and shut all the windows and the blinds and make it dark, or go in a bathroom or even a closet. Go in a walk-in closet, shut the door, make it really dark, right? And bring a flashlight with you. And then turn the flashlight on and see what it feels like in your eyes. Don't shine it right in your eyes. Shine it up at the ceiling or the floor or something. Yeah, it's going to bother your eyes. It's going to hurt. It's going to be painful. That's a small flashlight. Now, let's say you went into a room, a bedroom, and it was nighttime, and you shut all the lights off, and you stayed in there for 15 minutes in super darkness, right? And then you had a nice 250-watt bulb and a lamp, and you turned it on all of a sudden. What's that going to feel like? See, that's what's going on with these people. They're in the darkness. And then you put the light on, and it's painful to them. So what do they want to do? They want to run back into the darkness where they're comfortable and they feel better. They feel nice and calm in there. They don't have peace, but they feel better in the darkness. Because they're not the children of light, they're children of darkness. Sons of the devil. Matthew 13, the tares and the wheat. They're the children of the evil one. Okay? And he don't like the light, and they don't like the light. It's painful for them. It's uncomfortable. They don't adapt to it. Okay? So when you're, with their doctrines, it's they're evil or dark, the darkness. See, the outside of their cup is clean. They dress neat. They don't walk around holding a bottle of wine drunk or having a hypodermic needle and shooting heroin. They keep themselves clean looking. They try to work. They don't, they don't get drunk. They don't use cuss words, And what do? They go to church to relish in the darkness every Sunday. They sing songs of darkness. They have Bible studies of darkness. They're in a dark place haunted by demons. Demons are there. And they listen to lying doctrines and they sing lying songs that are really promoting unclean spirits, not what the people think is being promoted. And it's all darkness. Okay? And they're comfortable there. They feel good. Then they leave Sunday at about 1 o'clock, 12:30, 1 o'clock, and they go have a good time, And this is going to continue right to the end. It's about to shut them, they're about to get shut down. And you see, reading the Bible and studying the Bible on their own would be an act of light. But to understand it, they would need the Holy Spirit and the help of Father God Jehovah, and they don't get that because they're not His. They're not written in the book of life. See, Satan and the demons and the fallen angels are promoting these places as a counterfeit to draw people in. That's what the tares and the wheat is telling you. They look like wheat, but they're not. They're run by wolves in sheep's clothing. They look like they're nice sheep, but they're murderers. They're evil and wicked. And they're not going to pull a 45 out at the pulpit and shoot somebody in the audience. No, they're going to get the person sucked into sin, believing false doctrine is sin, acting in it, teaching it, spreading. And then they'll try to curse the person and kill him with curses and stuff, If the person gives enough place to the devil, it could work. That's what they do. And if they can't accomplish that, they'll start making the person's life miserable as best they can by using other people in the sphere of influence around that person. Could be an evil spouse, it could be an evil employer, evil co-workers, evil neighbors, evil friends that aren't friends, fellow churchgoers that are wolves in sheep's clothing, and they just try to keep making that person's life insanely difficult. And the person is in fellowship with them, and that's the mistake. They're in incorrect fellowship. You can't fellowship with people that are espousing these false doctrines. Now, you might come across people that have, I'm talking about, they're spouting false doctrines that are not biblical, they're contrary to the scriptures, or they're perhaps they're just not in the Bible. Okay, it's against the Bible. It has to pretty much be against the Bible. Okay. Now, you come across people that are unchurched for decades, and people can wind up, Satan comes like an angel of light. They could wind up thinking they're communicating with the Holy Spirit or with Father God Jehovah or with Yeshua, and they're not. But that will fall apart rather quickly. They would start telling the person things rather quickly that are absurd. Okay? Absurd. Just absurd. And I've heard this from people in Israel. I mean, they'll just tell them to do stupid things. I mean, things are stupid, and they do it. But can you tell these people that they're not hearing from the Lord? Well, I think in some cases you could help them. And I think in some cases you're not going to help them because they're too far gone. Now, Jehovah could help them. You could pray for them. But you might not be able to help them. And the reason they're doing this is they hear the sound of their father's voice, Satan. They don't hear the sound of Jehovah's voice. So they're not supposed to be following the Lord. They're not one of his. You get that. So, you put all this stuff together and you start realizing how hard our lives have been. I'm not trying to play a sympathy card on ourselves. Oh, woe is me, and all that. But it's been hard, and we're getting to the end of the line now. And we're busted up. I know that. I know we're busted up. But you got to make sure you're not thinking you're hearing from the Lord and you're hearing from an unclean spirit. It may, for the first few times they talk to you, it may make a little sense. But what'll start happening is they'll tell you things are going to happen and they never happen. Okay? A lot of times what people do is they start consulting this unclean spirit, not about major problems in their life, and little things like common sense, nonsense things, like, should I buy this shirt? Should I get a new pair of running shoes? Should I eat out today? Yeah, things like that. You have free will, decision-making capability, and the unclean spirits don't want you to have free will, so they want to encourage you to go to them for every little tiny thing, okay? So they can dominate your life. That's what they want to do. And that leads to your death and destruction. That's their total goal here, okay? That's it. Because they know if you're dead, you might be with Jehovah, but you're no longer a threat to them on earth, and they're trying to maintain their control over the earth so they stay out of the pit. And so they'll just try to get rid of you if they can, to kill you. And so they'll tell you things that are irrational. They'll tell you things that you shouldn't listen to because they're stupid, and then they'll tell you things that are going to happen and they don't happen. And then you got to realize you're not listening to Jehovah or Yeshua or the Ruach HaKodesh. You're listening to some jackass, unclean spirit, okay? And then what do? Well, you go after the unclean spirit with spiritual warfare. You ask the Lord to forgive you, and repent of this. And then you go after the jackass. Send them to the place unclean spirits go, where they're kicked out of somebody, to stay there for a year or two. And, then you just stop doing it. Okay? Now, if you really steep deep with them, they'll start giving you lousy Bible interpretations, prophecy, and other things, like what happened with Adam and Eve. Did God tell you, not to eat of the tree? That kind of thing. They start with that kind of garbage, And you start seeing this manifest, you see people, women are superior to men, the man's not the head of the house, it's an equal 50-50. You see that. You see, you could be gay and a believer, you get that, you get, a number of things. The whole purpose of everything these unclean spirits is trying to do is get you to die in sin, And people don't understand how evil they are. God does. I mean, they're really evil. And you can take dominion over them, but you have to have the faith to do it and walk in it. And you got to keep yourself from sin, And these people that serve these unclean spirits dedicate their life to helping them. And they don't understand that they're being played for suckers. It's unbelievable, So the darkness is all over the place, and I think it's good for all of us to remove ourselves from as much of this darkness as we can, and it's really hard, because it's just all over the place, the darkness. Go to the supermarket, and there's junky food, misrepresentation food, lied, GMO modified food is darkness. It's all over. You're not going to avoid it. You'd have to go out of the earth, Now, if you went off and lived, in a cave somewhere, and, God provided for you, and you had no interaction with people and stuff like that, well, then you would probably be okay. No electricity, no electronics, and just had a Bible. But, even your Bible has got a spirit of some darkness in it. The translations are twisted on purpose. Right? We've studied that over the years. So, is that intentional twisting of the meaning of the words in the English Bibles? Is that light or darkness? It's darkness. Of course it's darkness. It's intentional deceit. You see? So, the darkness is all over the place, but we're supposed to shine. And it's not yet, your shining isn't going to be, until the appearing, and as arise, shine, your light has come. The glory of the Lord has risen upon thee. So that would make us think that your light has come when you see Yeshua, and then the glory of God of Israel is going to show up at the temple, right? Arise, shine, your light has come, the glory of the Lord has risen upon thee. So first our light, we're emanating forth light, which would be from seeing Yeshua as a believer. Then the next thing we see, the glory of the Lord has risen upon thee. Well, now he's going to his temple. He's also functioning as a light too. But I think we get the light from seeing Yeshua. Because when you see him, you shall be like him, and he has a lot of light. Okay? So, then it'll be revealed what we are. Okay? And again, notice there's a heavy emphasis on what? Light. You'll emanate forth light. Arise, shine, your light has come. It's light, light, light. In the light, there's no secrets and mysteries and darknesses. And, they like the darkness because they think it conceals the evil deeds they do. The adultery, the murder, the perversion, the sacrifices, Epstein and that kind of thing, It doesn't, but they think it. And these people run around on earth, bathed in darkness, living in darkness, and the darkness is a way of life. When they need to, they lie. They cheat, they steal, they're covetous, they're selfish, they love themselves, that's what you have. It's just all over the place, the whole world. Every country. Is Buddhism darkness? Is Hinduism darkness? Is Mohammedanism darkness? Is Catholicism darkness? Is Churchianity darkness? Is atheism darkness? Is Satanism darkness? Do you understand? It's all over the place. It's all over. The books they write, the novels, the mysteries, there's darkness. What do they talk about? They talk about people living a life of darkness. What about war movies? It's darkness. People going around killing each other for no real good reason. Darkness. What about science fiction? Darkness. It's not real. See, the old movies are less dark, but they're still completely dark, if that makes sense. Let's say you go back to Fred Astaire, 1940-ish or something, right, with Ginger Rogers, or even in the 30s during the Great Depression where they were doing all the dancing and stuff like that, right? What's so righteous and not dark about the dancing? Well, what are they dancing to? They're dancing to secular music celebrating what? God's mercy. No, they're just celebrating their own physical prowess or something like that. But the whole purpose of that is to get you to be enamored with how good Ginger Rogers and Fred Astaire's dancing skills were, and they were superb. And what good does that do you? So you're a great dancer. You're still going to the lake of fire if that's all you got going for yourself. You know what I'm saying? So it's a misrepresentation to the people. And it's not that way today, but back then the people would look at the dance steps these people did, and they would try to copy them and learn them and stuff like that, and they would think, oh, if I could be a good dancer, what's it going to mean? Nothing. Okay? So did they promote God? Did they promote Israel? Did they talk about the Bible? Were they doing anything to help people? Of course not. They were leading people astray. What was going on? It was during the Depression. People were able to go to a movie for 5 cents or 10 cents. And, even when I was a child, when you went to the movies, you saw 2 pictures. In some cases, 3. Usually 2. Pictures were about an hour and a half. So you had 2, sometimes they were 2 hours. Then they had an intermission between the pictures, so you would go buy popcorn or a hot dog or candy or soda or sometimes coffee or whatever, right? And when I was a kid, the movie theaters were smoking. The whole area was a cigarette ashtray, and pipes and cigars. So the tobacco and the smoke was all over the place. And so people would escape. They were in a depression. They were poor. And then here's Fred Astaire running around with a Bugatti car or whatever they call them, a Duesenberg car that probably cost $20,000-$30,000 in the Depression, which would be what people would make every 3 or 4 years, maybe less, so it was, they could never afford anything like that, and they'd wear, shoes and clothes that were very costly, and people would go and they would look at that, and they would escape from their own poverty, living in a ratty apartment, having public transportation, having a very bad, low-paying job, but grateful you had something so you could eat. You'd eat cheap food. You'd have lentil soup and bread, and they'd have steak and lobster on TV. And you'd wear, coveralls and work boots, and they'd have expensive suits. And, people would identify as if that's a good reality. What good does that do them? So they got a nice car, nice clothes, they know how to dance, they have a nice house, they have servants, they drink champagne, they eat steak and they eat lobster, they fly on airplanes even, go on cruise ships with sweets, and they wind up in the lake of fire. It's darkness. It's portraying to the people that this is what you should be going after. It's not right. You go to the Westerns. What went on in all the Western movies? They went into a saloon. Every Western I ever saw in my life had saloons. People went into saloons. Could that really have been the case? I doubt it. I doubt it. There was a lot of people in the West that, let's say we're talking, it could be talking very low 1800s, way before the Civil War. They had, towns pop up here and there, and the town was a hub where the people came to trade. Maybe they wanted to sell things. Maybe they needed to get seed, supplies, tools, various food stuff, clothing items, things like that. So they had a few stores in there. They maybe had a bank in there. They maybe had a sheriff. Maybe they didn't. If it was a substantial enough place, it was a wagon stop. They had those wagons where they delivered products and people traveled, covered wagons. Or it might even be a train stop, and then they would have a hotel, and they might have restaurants, And they probably did have a bar or two, but, these people had families. They were working their cattle, working their animals, working their land. They were living several miles outside of town. In some cases, maybe it took them an hour to get into town. They used the buckboard often. They got into town and they bought supplies and then took it back. And they didn't go into town and then go into a saloon and start drinking and gambling and losing their money. The gamblers that are successful are cheaters. Is that hard to figure out? That's it. There's no, you know, and, you know, then they had the saloon girls, which were basically, they didn't like to portray it that way, but they were prostitutes. They liked to show them that they would just play up to the guy so the guy would buy them drinks. And it was, you know, not that. They took the guy upstairs and there was a house of prostitution, you know, going on. And, you know, the black people were heavily discriminated against back then. They tended to ignore that on television. And they always were talking about robbers and bank robbers and gunslingers and stuff. You know, there was one instance of a gun draw battle like they showed on TV 89,000 times, where they would go out in the street, square off, and then they'd pull their guns and try to kill each other standing out in the open. There was one instance like that. I think it was Wyatt Earp, and the distance was very, very long. And I think it was after he wasn't a lawman and he actually hit the other guy and the other guy didn't hit him. And the whole concept of the gunfights is completely fiction. It really didn't happen. Most of the time when they were killing each other, they were shooting each other in the back or bushwhacking somebody, and they did have disputes over gambling and saloons. They had saloons with liquor and card games, and they had instances where the guy would take a gun and just shoot the guy across the table. But this business of let's go outside and we each take 10 paces, turn around and shoot each other in the West, that didn't go on. In Europe, they did have dueling pistols, and these idiots did take 10 paces and turn around and shoot at each other. And I think a lot of the times they both missed. And then probably they were single shot pistols. And then a lot of time they probably just wounded each other, and sometimes they probably killed each other. And they also used to do it with swords. They would meet in the morning or in the high noon or whatever, and they would have a sword fight, you know. Stupid stuff, you know. So it was all, you know, the whole television motion pictures is just darkness. The music is darkness, you know. The plays, the theater, it's darkness. What about listening to a symphony orchestra? Is that darkness? I don't know. I don't know what it's doing that's good. If it's not light, it's darkness, correct? So what kind of light are you going to get from Tchaikovsky or Beethoven or Brahms or Mozart? Nothing. So what is it? It's not light. It's darkness. Is it as bad as it? No, no way. You know, it doesn't. There's not even words to the music. It's just sounds of instruments, but it's not doing anything good. You know, it's entertaining to people and it's keeping them from God. You know. The ballet, look how they dress. It's pretty sick, you know. Um, you know, it's just wacko stuff, you know. So the whole world is steeped in evil or darkness, the same thing. And we need to come out of it because we're going to be the light. And all this stuff of darkness is probably going to disappear, fall away. The internet, the movies, the TV, all, you know, be gone, I think. I'm thinking. And then it won't be around anymore, you know. And, if you think we're going to, have you know, Redeemed Israel's going to have basketball teams, baseball teams, and soccer and hockey and football, you're not going to see that. It's not going to happen. That doesn't have any value. Will people go to the city gates and hang out and talk to each other? And yeah, sure. But what kind of things do you think we're going to talk about? The latest World Series game? It's be non-existent. We're going to talk about the light and what's going on in the world of the light. We're not going to be talking on the darkness. The darkness isn't going to really be there. It'll get dark again with the falling away for a little while, and then that'll be gone. Then comes New Jerusalem. But notice New Jerusalem is light. Even Jerusalem before New Jerusalem is going to be light. When you read the scriptures, it's light. It's about light. But we're used to a world of darkness. You go to school, they teach you darkness. You go to college, they teach you darkness. Your work, the workplace is operating in darkness. It's all darkness. Okay? All right. Let me take a look at the live stream. Something got weird here. Oh, that's not what I'm looking for. Okay. See, they try to make this work into darkness. How? By putting sicko things in the chat. You understand that now? That's why they do this. It puts darkness in, and then the moderators get rid of it, and it's not there anymore. Okay, so let's talk about events coming up and what we think is going to be the most likely, I guess. First thing I want to show you is Jeremiah 51. I think we start in verse 19. The portion of Yaakov or Jacob is not like them, for he is the former of all things, and Israel is the rod of his inheritance. Okay? Jehovah of hosts is his name. Thou art my battle axe, speaking of Jacob, speaking of Israel, 12 tribes, Jacob, Israel. A battle axe. What is a battle axe? It's like a war tomahawk hatchet kind of thing, right? Okay? You can cut through armor with a battle axe. You can kill with a battle axe. You can destroy other weapons with a battle axe. Thou art my battle axe and weapons of war. Let's check that word weapons just to make sure. I think it's okay, but yeah, it's a weapon. Weapon of war. Let's check the word for war. Yeah, war's okay, I guess. For with thee will I break in pieces the heathens, the goyim, and with thee will I destroy kingdoms. Oh no, I lost the call. Let me see what it is. Oh, I didn't lose it. It's suspected spam. It just canceled it out. That's good. Okay. So let's play with sequence. Let's try with sequencing and timing. Thou art my battle axe and weapon of war, for with thee will I break in pieces the heathen, and with thee will I destroy kingdoms. So, if Jeremiah 30 verse 11 already happened, what kingdoms would we be destroying? Do you get this? The point's self-evident, right? Okay. If he destroyed all the nations he scattered us into at that time, who would we be going after? This is an interesting concept, right? Okay, let's keep digging. Now I'm in verse 21. And with thee will I break in pieces the horse and his rider, and with thee will I break in pieces the chariot and his rider, and with thee will I break in pieces man and woman, and with thee will I break in pieces old and young, and with thee will I break in pieces the young man and the maid. I will also break in pieces with thee. Now, break in pieces is shatter, demolish, break up, bust up, destroy, right? Okay. I will also break in pieces with thee the shepherd and his flock, and with thee will I break in pieces the husbandman and his yoke of oxen, and with thee will I break in pieces captains and rulers, that's the military people. And I will render unto Babylon and to all the inhabitants of Chaldea all their evil that they have done in Zion in your sight, saith Jehovah. So, it looks like that we're going to be doing a lot of fighting after we hit redemption. It says we'll fight with slingstones. So we're definitely fighting. The house of David will be like the angel of the Lord before them, which is Michael, and he killed 180,000 in one day. That's the house of David. And then the feeble are going to fight like David, who killed the giant Goliath and a bear and a lion and was a great warrior. That's the feeble, So, I mean, we're fighting. We're going to fight. You got to get this down. So I don't think we're going to see all these nations get destroyed before redemption. Now there's the day of vengeance. Now the day of vengeance is... Oh, there's a lot of things I want to get at the same time. All right, let's finish this 24 first. I will render unto Babel and to all the inhabitants of Chaldea, that's America, all their evil that they have done in Zion in your sight. Say now, it's the word for sight is, I believe, ayin, which is in front of your eyes or in front of your face. So it happens here. They are, Biden was giving money to Hamas, billions, and the other administrations are, and they push them for two-state solutions, and they made us give Sinai Peninsula back, they made us give Gaza back. They all this, they try to manipulate us. We've had Satan-bought leaders running the country since 1948, and so is it a heathen army in Israel? Well, it's an army run by heathen. That can't continue. That's not an army of light. That's an army of darkness. So, they did October 7th, Biden and Netanyahu. They worked on that one. September 23rd, Netanyahu went to see Biden, and Netanyahu knew all about what Hamas was up to with the attack. And he came back, and then October 7th happened. All our guard was down, and the women soldiers were screaming we're being overrun, and they were saying, nah, relax, it's not real. It was a sick thing. So does this military that allowed this sickness thing to happen on October 7th, does it continue? Or is it really dark and it won't continue? And it's the leaders that are really giving it the darkness. The people are just don't understand it. So we're not seeing this darkness anymore in the form of the military or the government. In Malachi 3, Zechariah 12. Because it's darkness. And the darkness is blinding to the people, and God's not interested in the people staying blind. He covered up their eyes and stopped up their ears, but these are the days of opening their ears and opening their eyes, and the veil comes off. He's not interested in having more darkness blind the people. It's the opposite. Okay? That's not so hard, right? Now, there's another scripture that we need to look at here. I believe it's Jeremiah 51:49. We'll go there. Whoops, past it. As Babylon, that's America, has caused the slain of Israel to fall, so at Babylon shall fall the slain of all the earth. So it says, as Babylon has caused the slain of Israel to fall. Well, I think this is talking about October 7th plus the wars. Look, go back to 1948, right? What happened? They Israel declared independence from nobody. The British pulled out, but they did this, and they made a name change to Israel. I think they were trying to finish off Hitler's final solution. And they wanted to destroy prophecy, so call it Israel, and they put arms embargo, America, the UN, all of them. So Israel couldn't get modern weapons to fight, yet they let Russia give modern weapons to the Arabs. And they attacked us, and we managed to get weapons from Czechoslovakia and rehabilitate junky old World War II weapons, and God let us have a victory. And that was a shock to them. They didn't expect that. And then it kept repeating itself over the years till they cut it out. And we kept capturing more land, and then they kept telling us to give the land back. And Israel, having a false government, being a false Israel, did it. Darkness. Darkness. So they caused the death, heavy with America, caused the death of Israel. And look at before 1948, the British ran the place. There were Jews running away from Europe, from Hitler, 1939, 40, 41, 42, and they were trying to come to Israel. And Great Britain was turning them back. They even fired on ships transporting refugees from Hitler. They shot them with artillery. That's what the British did. You think the British got much longer to go? I don't. There was a ship that escaped to America. They took refugees from Germany, from Europe, Austria, and Germany, and they came to America on a ship, and America made them go back, and Hitler put them in the camps. America did that once. America's no friend of Israel. They're just using Israel. Israel's a proxy. That's all. You give Israel enough weapons, and it looks like they're helping Israel, but what happens is it builds up a hatred around the world with the Muslims and other countries, and then they all get Israel. So yeah, on the surface, yeah, they're helping them with weapons. So yeah, how about they're helping with the weapons so they get the whole world mad at them and then try to wipe them out? Did you ever think of it that way? There's no light in the White House, and there never was. They could call it the White House. They should call it the Dark House. Or the Sick House. I'm going to take a quick break, come back. We'll get into a few other things. See, Israel didn't want the Messiah 2,000 or so years ago, so they killed him. They wanted the darkness. He was the light. They didn't want it. The light came into the world. They didn't want it. So he gave them 2,000 years of darkness. But it's like time up, just about any day. And that's the end of that. Arise, shine, your light has come. The glory of the Lord is risen upon you. You know, see, the light. So we go to Zechariah 12. Go to verse 2. Behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling unto all the people round about, when they shall be in the siege both against Judah and against Jerusalem. You see, it really would mean a basin, not a cup of the wrath of the Lord. This is a basin, a big bowl, so all the bad ones can drink out of it at the same time. Okay? When they shall be in the siege, both against Judah and against Jerusalem. Well, that's sort of ongoing now. It's probably going to enhance. And in that day, see, it's the that day, the that day, the that day, will I make Jerusalem a burdensome stone, for all people, all that burden themselves with it shall be cut in pieces. That means dead. Cut in pieces is dead, but it doesn't mean burned up, though. So that's interesting too. Though all the people of the earth be gathered together against it. So is this really the earth, or is this really the land of Israel? Because it's the surrounding nations. So it could be like both ways. It says, behold, I will make Jerusalem a cup of trembling to all the people round about. Well, it could be a lot of the nations join in too. So it says all the people of the earth gathered together against it. It could be. And that brings about Jeremiah 30 verse 11 and so forth. In that day, saith Jehovah, I will smite every horse with astonishment and his rider with madness, and I will open my eyes upon the house of Judah, and will smite every horse of the people with blindness. Well, that's our deliverance is beginning. And the governors of Judah shall say in their heart, the inhabitants of Jerusalem shall be the inhabitants of Jerusalem's strength is in the Lord of hosts. They twisted that up. In that day will I make the judges of Judah like an earth of fire among the wood. You see, that doesn't mean that they weren't here for a while before and would have had powers. It says in that day he's going to make them like that, okay? So that doesn't mean that's when he gives them the, it means that at that day they're going to burn everybody up. Okay? They might not have had the ability to generate the fire or the lightning to that extent previously. Maybe they could just do it in a small amount for a person or a few people or something. This is to probably get rid of millions. So it could be greatly enhanced, okay? You got to look at it. That's possible also. Jehovah also shall save the tents of Judah first, that the glory of the house of David and the glory of the inhabitants of Jerusalem do not magnify themselves against Judah. In that day shall Jehovah defend the inhabitants of Jerusalem And he that is feeble among them at that day shall be as David and the house of David. You see then that the feeble, the old busted up people are like David, so obviously they've been changed. And the house of David shall be like the angel of the Lord, like Michael, you know. And I will see, it shall come to pass in that day, that I will seek to destroy all the heathen nations that come against Jerusalem. Okay? So, I'm not sure who that's going to be, but, you know, we'll see. And I will pour upon the house of David and upon the inhabitants of Jerusalem the spirit of grace and of supplications. Now they're believers, he poured his spirit out on them. Then they look upon me whom they have pierced. Well, now they see Yeshua. Okay, and that's, you know, just for a fast review, that's you basically working with John 6, verse 40 here. And this is the will of him that sent me, that every one which seeth the Son and believeth on him may have everlasting life, and I will raise him up at the last day. So it's saying that everybody that seeth the, everybody that seeth the Son and believeth on him. Well, because he poured his spirit out on them first, they were believers, then they see him, so now they have the everlasting life. Okay? And they don't teach this because they teach darkness in the churches. 1 John 3:2, the church of darkness, right? Behold, now are we the sons of God, and it doth not yet appear what we shall be. But we know that when he shall appear, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is. We'll be like him. And then, of course, you got to read this with Revelation, 1:7. Behold, he cometh with clouds, and every eye shall see him, and they which pierced him, and all kindreds of the earth shall wail because of him. Even so, amen. Well, you read that later on in Zechariah 12, the wail is mourning, you know. And, you know, this is based basically from, you know, Matthew 24:30. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And that's not him returning to earth, obviously. And then the sign means like a miraculous appearing. Then shall all the tribes of the land mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And then he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet. So you're going to hear the trumpet. And they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. You know. Now that's gathering the wheat into his barn in Matthew 13, and then the angels uproot the tares and get rid of them and bind them in bundles, put them in the pit, and then they go to the lake of fire. See, it's so horrible what happens to these idiots running around causing all the torment in the world, but that's what they are, you know, they walk in darkness. That's just what they do. And wherever they are, they want darkness. That's why they go into the live stream and post horrible things in here. Because they want to spread darkness over the light. They don't want light anywhere in the world. Light is not for them. They're not going to adapt to the light. They're not going to rest in the light and glory in the light and be happy in the light. No. They're not happy unless they're lying, cheating, stealing, murdering. That's the only thing that makes them happy, is operating in the darkness. Like their father, murderer from the beginning and the father of lies. That's what they're like. And a lot of them become like a wolf in sheep's clothing. They make themselves look like they're nice people, and they're not. They just want to get close to you, and then they rip your throat out like a wolf. That's all they care about. So we might or may not see a lot of nations get destroyed before the appearing. They might get it after. The daughter of Babylon's got to get it first. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any nations to destroy the daughter of Babylon and loot it and pillage it. So, I'm trying to get it through to you. Let me look at the live stream, see if I have questions or anything. No. All right, so please pray for me that I stop bringing up sputum and coughing that stuff up. Please pray. I don't feel sick, but pray that that goes away and it stops, please. And pray for me and my wife for peace, safety, protection, joy, healing. Pray for our finances and our health and our birds and dogs are all rescues. Pray they be happy, healthy, and whole. Pray for better videos. And ask yourself, am I walking in darkness now? I mean, like, it's almost unavoidable, you know, but minimize it as much as you can, okay? And pray for the peace of Jerusalem, and I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach. And please pray that the Lord gives me direction in some things. He knows what I'm seeking. Ask for me, please pray for me that the Lord gives me direction in a few matters I'm seeking Him with. He knows what they are. I really appreciate that, and I thank you. And like I say, a lot of times I think I ride on your prayers. And I'm out. Okay, guys, thank you. And there it is.